All right, welcome to podcast number 2. Last week we were talking about the guy that was kind of let off but easy by the judge, and this week we saw an article about the Mayor of Amsterdam wants to ban tourists from the cafes, from the coffee shops, in an aim to curb antisocial behaviour. And it would see an end to anyone other than Dutch or residents of the city being able to frequent the cafes, which would potentially cut a huge amount of their tourist intake. So I've never been. I was meant to go years ago. So have any of you guys been?
Well, should we just say who we've got in the room?
Oh yeah, we've got Ben Talbot.
Hello.
We've got
Podcast, Phil.
Dinty. You remember from last week, and we've got AJ from last week. Ben, you're joining us tonight for the first time.
Personally, I was in Amsterdam. I was in Amsterdam when I was 18, so that's almost 20 years ago now. And it was a lads' holiday. There was 4 of us who went over, 4 lads, all around the same age. And we did specifically go over for the weed. Like back when I was a teenager, the only THC you could get in Ireland would have been hash. And hash, I think everybody's familiar with hash, that brown stone that you burn. And we'd never smoked weed at that stage, so we thought, what's the best way to get good quality weed? So let's go on a lads' holiday. We'll go over, and it was specifically for that reason. We wouldn't have gone to Amsterdam for any other reason.
So we did. The Anne Frank museum wasn't appealing to you, no.
That's what this article is saying, that they want to, that they're considering, the drug tourism.
Yeah, but listen, just on that, like I've been over there a few times now, 3 or 4, right? And like out of those 4 times was not, I'd say, 2 out of those times, 3 out of those times wasn't for that reason. Right. It was nothing to do with the smoke. It was just one was
for the crack.
For the crack. There was a stag party.
There you go.
And the guys going on the stag party were all raring to go to Amsterdam. And I can tell you, none of them smoked. So look.
So are you saying that the marijuana tourism is only part of the tourist trade?
It's only a part of it, right? Look, you've loads of stuff going on in Amsterdam. The history is fantastic, and just you look around the buildings, the way everything's laid out, because everything's crammed in, everything's real tall, real narrow and tall, and it's a fascinating city.
Now, were you amazed by the architecture sober?
Well, look, we're fair enough. A few drinks and stuff. It is. It really is. But there's people that go. There's art and everything, right? So
you like the windows too, didn't you?
But there is. There's a massive tourism train going there, and it's not just for weed.
Yeah, you're saying that it's a European city with plenty of connections to loads of other. Yeah, so you can get there easy. There's loads of art. There's quite a lot to do.
Yeah, and someone mentioned the sex trade. Come on.
Yeah. Why are they not talking? Why are they not talking about the sex trade? I mean. Yeah, we're going to stop. We're going to stop people chilling out.
Here's another perspective, though. Here's another perspective. Like, if you're a lad and you're going over to Amsterdam, are you going to tell, let's say, the people you work with, that that you're going over for a smoke, which is perfectly legal, or are you going to tell them, I'm going over for the other nightlife? Exactly. You're not going to There's a certain stigma around cannabis and weed, but people understand that. In Amsterdam, it's legal. I mean, might not agree with it, but I mean, would it be more damaging to your reputation if you told, Linda in the office, "Oh, I'm going to go over and I'm going to bang some hookers"?
I don't know why that's relevant. Though, because
no, I'm just mean like if let's just say, for example, they do stop the sale of cannabis to holiday tourists.
Yeah,
is it also going to stop tourists going over who are using that as an excuse to go over, but spending the money in different industries of tourism? in Amsterdam.
One argument from the local spokesperson for the Association of Cannabis Retailers in Amsterdam, he says efforts to keep tourists out of coffee shops will push the drug trade onto the streets. And like you guys are saying, there's other things to do there. So does it just turn the tourist into a quasi-criminal then? So now you're going to have a skyrocketing criminal.
Potentially, yeah.
No, but say for instance, if you can't buy it as a tourist, it gets driven into the streets, then it's not a commercial act, it's a criminal act.
Yeah, so that's what I didn't understand was that they were saying the mayor wants to do it to reduce crime, to help reduce crime. Surely, black market's going to rise.
Yeah, so the again, it's back to the prohibition after the fact. So you have it, you prohibit it, and then you have it again. That's, say, alcohol went from being readily available, prohibition, being readily available again. They've had it there. They've had tourists come. They've had revenue generated. There's businesses set up because of it. And then you're telling them, we're cutting off your trade, and it drives it into an illegal act.
From my experiences, there's already a very large illegal drug trade in Amsterdam. Like, I don't know about you guys, and I kind of understand it in one sense. Like, so I don't know if you ever experienced this in Amsterdam, but I found it a little bit frightening on the streets at night. I don't know if it's because I was smoking, but there's an awful lot of big guys hanging out in 3s and 4s, and as you're walking by in the street, they're saying, Charlie cocaine, ecstasy, and they're trying to encourage you to go down an alleyway with them to sell you this. Or
so I've never been to Amsterdam, but I have been to like Porto and Faro, and various places in the Algarve in Portugal. Porto and a few places in the Algarve, and I didn't feel unsafe there at all. Now, I know it's not technically not legal there, but it's decriminalized. And yeah, I didn't get that when I was in Portugal.
Yeah, so this is one of the points I kind of agree with, the antisocial behavior, because I have to say I didn't feel entirely safe when I was in Amsterdam.
Yeah, but just on that, Ben, like, what's that got to do with the weed, though?
Yeah, how does that relate?
I think it's related to the illegal drug trade, because this is what the guys on the streets are doing. They're trying to get you down the alleyway.
It is. But like, I think they're just there as a matter of fact because there's tourists around and there's people to sell to.
And yeah,
because I know the guys you're talking about. You see them, there's gang of them to be sitting around on corners
in their leather jackets.
Look, in my experience, it was, it's a little bit intimidating at the start. Once you've had a few beers and you've walked past them a few times, you just pay no attention to it, But I just don't see how that's anything to do with the weed, because at the end of the day, like, whether the weed's there or not, there's still going to be tourists, still going to be busy enough area. There's still going to be people selling, and they're probably going to be selling weed because you can't get it, because the tourists can't get it in a coffee shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the impression I got was that you'll either they're going to lure you down the alleyway, and they're either going to beat you up and rob your money, or they're going to sell you drugs. And it kind of felt like a 50-50 gamble. But we were staying in a hostel when we were there, and we met a Canadian guy, and we were hanging out with him for a bit. And he did that. He went to buy off one of these guys, and he came back with a black eye and no money. So, I mean, but that kind of goes towards what Tinty was saying about the being pushed underground. Like, it's not going to stop people buying weed. It's just going to push them to these guys who might mug them, who might beat them, who might. Although he might sell them weed, but it might not be the same kind of quality that you'd be buying.
Here's a question. The three of you have been there already.
No, I haven't.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, so the two, and Indy and Ben, you guys have been there. Now, let's say they bring in this ban. Would you go back again?
Would you be less inclined, or
Are you more inclined or less inclined to go back?
Good question.
Or maybe even have to put yourselves in mind frame of when you were the age that you went. If it was not legal, would you?
Yeah.
No. I wouldn't have gone if it wasn't legal at the time. I wouldn't have spent my money in Amsterdam. The first time. I mean, I
Yeah.
said at the
You
very
would
start
have
we
been-
went
you would have
specifically
been
for legal
less-
weed.
You would have been less inclined, didn't
Yeah.
you? More inclined or less inclined?
Well, he's been 4 times.
Because I'll give you
I'm
the
guessing he would have been
stats.
3 times.
What's the question?
Okay. I tell you what, I'll give you the details. The study by the Dutch Office for Research Information Statistics found that up to 44% of British tourists, 50% of German visitors, and 45% of French tourists would no longer visit Amsterdam if they could not enter coffee shops. So half of the people that go, just under half of Brits, well, it'll be a little bit difficult for Brits now, or a little bit more difficult in terms of the visas and stuff like that. So let's say German and French, half the Germans wouldn't go and 45% of the French wouldn't go. So it's got to be a huge chunk. You've got to wonder, she ran on a platform of getting the coffee shops close to tourists. You've got to wonder what difficulties they're having in Amsterdam that this seems, considering the amount of trade they're going to lose.
Yeah, and reading on a little bit on the same article. So, they're talking about how, the reason that they want to shut it down in any legal capacity is because of the illegal growing. Now, it goes on to say that there's a Dutch province of Brabant where Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands converge, is where the bulk of the country's illegal marijuana is grown, often hidden in plain sight. But it goes on to say it's by farmers who are hard pressed and on the verge of bankruptcy. Now, for me, there's a paradox there. This is a contradiction. So they're talking about removing an opportunity for the farmers to actually get a license, get skilled, and provide a revenue, a tax revenue. It seems to me like the state is just saying, actually, no, we're up for a fight. Let's have a fight, instead of trying to find a balance of work and resources and revenue.
Yeah, it seems like it is just that's a government issue.
Yeah. And now we should add that this is in the Irish Times, this article. So I think...
Yeah, and the same article is then on Euronews. This story is from the 12th of the 1st, 2021. So they've discussed it a couple of times. So I wonder, is it just kite flying and then they see what actually the response is? So this is from the 12th of the 1st, 2021 from Euronews. And it says... The move has been proposed by the city's mayor, Femke Halsema, alongside police and public prosecutor office to limit drug tourism in the Dutch capital. So
I have it now. I have the right article now.
Yeah.
So would it be a fair comparison to say that it would cause similar damage if, let's say, the Irish government were to say that tourists can't drink when they come over here? There's too much antisocial behavior. There's too many fights, too much rows, too much broken property.
Well, I think that would be true of like the Brits going to Spain or even in England. I think the Irish scene is a damn sight less raucous than the Brits, don't you?
I just mean
maybe so, but yeah.
My point is, like, everybody knows Guinness. Everybody knows Guinness is from Ireland. You come to Ireland,
we've a reputation for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, true.
Whereas the same with the dam with the weed. So in a sense, it's a good comparison. And I agree with you.
I'd say that drink is probably more readily taken than weed in. So drink is more widely taken in Ireland or in Dublin than it would be, I suppose, limiting the areas. So imagine you said the curfew in Temple Bar was 10 o'clock and then everybody moves out a ring into the next zone and then they say that curfew is 12 o'clock and, so I don't know if it's equal to banning alcohol completely for foreigners, but it's...
Maybe not financially, but culturally, potentially. It is an identity.
Yeah, okay, culturally, yeah, because Amsterdam is known as that, yeah, and Dublin, like you said, is the pint of Guinness. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me answer the question then, lads. Right? I've thought about it.
Oh, you've thought about the answer.
I've thought about it. Yeah, would I go or not? I'd still go, but I'd be more inclined to go if it was still legal.
Yeah.
I wouldn't not go because it wasn't legal anymore. That wouldn't stop me from going, but
Okay, so
I'd have more of an interest of going if it was still legal.
is that specifically for Amsterdam, or are you talking about
Amsterdam,
Holland?
Amsterdam.
So, I mean, I know somebody who regularly frequents Rotterdam. He says it's a much nicer city. It's much friendlier and very similar laws, especially if you go to the suburbs of Rotterdam. In regards to cannabis, I think. But
so you can go to coffee shops in anywhere.
Yeah, and
in the country.
he goes once a year, and he said he went to Amsterdam only once, and he'll never go back. But Rotterdam, he'll go every year. But
Okay.
also he does go over to smoke also, but he also enjoys the city far more. So is this law to cover all of Holland, or
No, it's just Amsterdam.
just
Mayor of
Amsterdam?
Amsterdam's the lad that's put the foot down. So yeah, so what like?
So would that
there'll be another spot that will just move location.
Yeah. So would that push the negative behavior, the antisocial behavior, to other cities then? Because the tourism will migrate to other cities. Perhaps.
It
Interesting.
might do, yeah. Or I can't help thinking that, going back to the reason that they want, or the reasoning behind the thinking of doing it is because there's too much black market and gangs going on.
Well, the article says the proposal is one of several solutions favoured by Halsema, elected in 2018 to reduce overcrowding in the city's red light district. Soft drugs like hashish and marijuana are legal to buy in coffee shops in the Netherlands for personal consumption, and these have remained open for takeaway during the coronavirus lockdown. So this is part of the thinking is to allow the red light district have a little bit more movement, reduce the overcrowding.
So less stoned horny people.
Yeah, that's
So their goal is actually to reduce the number of people coming into Amsterdam. If they're trying to reduce
overcrowding in the red light district.
Do you know what I think is more likely in this scenario? And bear with me because it's going to sound a little bit conspiracy theorist, but from a marketing point of view, right? They're talking about in the middle of a pandemic when no one can travel anywhere. Certainly with the Brits and the Irish, everyone's very limited in terms of travel. They're talking about how they're going to reduce the number of people they're going to let in to their tourist trade. But as soon as the ban's lifted, I wonder if there's going to be another article saying, do you know what? We've made a decision, everyone, on the global stage, we are still allowing people to come in and smoke weed. And it's just like the biggest free bit of marketing. It could be a really nicely executed PR stunt.
It would be if there was a date like if it's some big drive to get more people to Amsterdam. Is that what you're saying?
Well, from a political spin, from a spin standpoint, you stand up, head above the pulpit on a global stage and say, we're not sure if we're going to let people smoke weed here anymore. And then as soon as I don't know what that guy sounds like. It wasn't an impression of him, by the way. That was
you gave him that job.
That was an impression of someone in PR.
Yeah, very good.
And then, when people are starting to move around globally, then again on a global stage saying, that thing that we said we were going to do that maybe no one ever remembered, but it'll still get global coverage or at least it'll get
and people will go flooding to Amsterdam because they can go now.
And then it's like an advert, but it's
What's a better way to get people to want something than tell them they can't have it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a pretty big axe to swing for a mayor. You know, like it's not
No,
even the president of Amsterdam; it's the mayor of Amsterdam. Or the
No,
president
though
of
I was
the
thinking,
Netherlands, not Amsterdam.
I was thinking, like, you know, Andy's saying, you know, it could be a PR stunt. Is it a case that they have now firsthand experienced what it's like, how their revenues are turning over without the tourist trade? They're seeing it firsthand, and they're going, well, you know what, we don't need that as much as we thought.
Oh, I think everyone.
And the sales in cannabis gone up because everyone's sitting around? A lot of people furloughed and can't work. Are they smoking more? Are they buying more? I don't know.
There's not a chance that any government that's impacted by this is going to turn down money, because they're all in massive deficits. So they're not going to say, sure, we can get away with it. If they figure that the economy can survive without it and they can get it, of course they're going to get it, because that's just extra tax revenue, you know.
That's another reason why I think it's possibly just a bit of free press, you know.
It's pretty extreme way to go.
Were they not talking about it years ago doing this?
Yeah, this mayor ran and was elected in 2018 on one of the proposals that they had made was to ban tourists. And I've seen the article come up. You, AJ, you saw that article from 2020.
In the Irish
AJ,
Times,
you saw another one in 2019. And Ben, did you see the article previously as well?
I haven't, but I've got other. What I'm thinking is that it is entirely possible that they are going to go ahead with it, because when I went to Amsterdam, magic mushrooms were legal. Now they have since made them illegal in Amsterdam.
They rolled that back, didn't they? Yeah.
Like, I think you can still get truffles, but you can't get the fruiting bodies of the mushroom. So, again, mushrooms are not a party drug. If anyone's ever taken mushrooms, you know it's not a party drug. You'll take them one time, and then you're not going to want to take them for a couple of weeks. It's not like like you wouldn't take one, I'll have another, and you end up having like a dozen of them.
You're saying they're not very Moorish.
I beg to differ.
No, I mean it's a
allegedly.
I think
you guys seem to know a lot about this.
I took them legally in Amsterdam, and it was an experience. So it's not like drinking. Drink, and then you wake up next day, you feel like shit, drink some more, drink.
I ate some by mistake loads of times.
Well, they grow in this country, but you're not allowed to pick them. I don't know what the law is if you eat them directly off the ground. But,
flick them.
I had some in Copenhagen.
But I mean, I'm just saying that as an example. If they can do that, and it hasn't appeared to have any negative effect on the tourism industry.
I would have always associated with marijuana smoking rather than psychedelics, but
it's because you're so young.
I know, I'm so baby-faced. My question would be, is it a possibility that they're seeing the kind of the Yanks legalize it, and potentially, the Spanish have been fairly lenient on it, the Portuguese have now decriminalized it, kind of thought, well, it's coming across Europe and from that direction, in terms of legalization, it's only going to be so long before the tourist trade is completely gone in that respect anyway.
So the reason maybe, and I'm not sort of diverting from your point, I'm kind of adding to it in a way that, it seems to me that prostitution is their problem. Like, why? I still don't understand why they would pull it back. I understand the psychedelics thing, and I understand wanting to get control on that sort of behavior. But the prostitution for me, or the mixture of the two, like I was first made aware of Amsterdam and its trade, its reputation by Irvine Welsh. You know, he wrote Train Spotting and a load of other books.
Oh yeah.
And when he got off heroin, he went and lived in Amsterdam for a while, and that's where he started writing. Actually, he's from Edinburgh, Glasgow. But apparently, there are loads of smackheads who they want to get off. They go to Amsterdam. They get really, really stoned. They bang loads of hookers as a way to sort of try and distance themselves from smack. Now, having a reputation to be somewhere that smackheads recover, you know, that's obviously not the sort of, it doesn't scream tourism brochure, does it? But how else could they claw back that reputation, or how else could they clean up their streets?
Well, I suppose it's only Amsterdam is proposing it rather than
The whole country.
the whole country.
Is there other red light districts within Holland? Like, is there red light districts in different cities, or is it
I
specifically?
Bagsy not Googling that question.
Go on, I'll do it.
Because
Private browsing, reporting for duty.
AJ, you're on research tonight.
Recon. Private
because
browsing.
I mean, like, if it's legal over there, then it has to be controlled in some way, taxed in some way. I mean,
Yeah.
the girls and women doing it would be doing it of their own free will. Like, you would assume that because it's legal, that there's nobody being forced into doing this. They're not doing it because of economic.
Well, you could say the same about marriage, really.
There was things on TV about. Oh, there was
Not
things
forced
about.
into it. No, but you know what I mean. Like
Yeah. But you would assume, like, I would naturally assume if it's illegal, if it's legal, then the women are not doing it against their will. That it's something that they choose to do.
Yeah,
You don't know. Not in every case, right?
yeah,
you don't, right?
I don't know the intricacies of the.
Yeah.
But
What it is the money's made off the room. I know, I've seen documentaries on it, right? So there's TV shows, there's loads of stuff about it, right? So they make the money off the rooms, and I think whoever owns those rooms, who they're linked to, whether it's government, where it's making all the money, yeah. So the girls are renting the rooms. So you know they're charging their punters whatever, and they're renting those rooms for so many hours in those rooms. So whoever owns that property, those are the guys in power. Like.
So from a quick Google search, all I can see.
Google that.
All I can see is there are just red light districts. There's 3 red light districts.
AJ is our young Jamie.
It's Jamie, yeah.
Young Jamie, pull that shit up.
It says it's three red light districts in Amsterdam, and that's it. So it's reading as though there aren't any other in the Netherlands.
Okay. But coming back to it's an interesting.
I read before that there was in Germany that there's hotels, and you go and you pay for the hotel, and the different rooms in the hotel have the women working in the rooms.
Can I have an extra pillow, please?
It all has to stay in the hotel, so you can visit the other girls, and it's all part of your fee that you pay.
There is a red light district in. I've gone to Frankfurt a few times and unknowingly stayed in the red light district, and then you're at a conference and maybe talking to somebody, and they say to you where you're staying. I'm saying, I'm staying in such and such a hotel. And they're like, oh, that's in the red light district. And you're like,
you big pervert, yeah.
What?
I went on a school art trip to Paris, and we stayed in Pigalle, which is also known as the red light district.
Yeah, well, I think the first time I went to the Dam, we stayed right on the edge of it. But look, it's purely because that's where the best bars are.
It's like saying,
and you're going out every night. You go to the red light, you go to the bars. So,
But it's like staying in the Kosan Road.
It's like staying in Temple Bar.
Temple Bar, yeah.
Yeah, you'd wonder what would drive. That's my question: is what's driving the mayor to be elected on that as an election promise? Like, how bad has it got to be for the locals to say, do you know what, we'd rather not have tourists, despite the fact that it may put people out of business.
Yeah.
We'll keep the prostitution, but not the weed.
Yeah, that was
But
AJ's point. What's he thinking with like out of the two evils that they have? He's picking marijuana when
maybe because the sex trade has a better turnover,
or alternatively, they'd prefer to push the weed trade underground than the sex trade underground, because
good point.
If they push the sex trade underground, then you will have women who are not willing consenting. And not consenting. Yeah.
And you're into
what about plants? Ben, plants have feelings too. These plants getting put into dark rooms, only illuminated for whatever amount of...
never see real sunlight in their entire life.
Like I was saying, lads, but those guys that own those rooms, that could be, that could sway the decision as well.
Yeah,
it's saying they're meant to hold some sort of power, So if they're putting backhanders in, of course they're going to keep those rooms going.
Always with the conspiracies.
Maybe throw
it out there,
Maybe reading between the lines, then what they're saying is they're blaming the drug gangs, but actually it's the sex trade gangs that are forcing their arm into.
Is this like the underground ghost chili ring that you were setting up last week?
Exactly. Same thing.
Look, it is really interesting to see what I suppose would have always been classed maybe to the Irish Times readers that Amsterdam was a friendly kind of place for liberals and that kind of thing, that they've decided, no, you know what, we're going to go a different route.
I still think it's bollocks.
You think it's PR?
I think it's a PR stunt, yeah.
Dainty, what's your take on it?
We'll see if it even happens.
Okay, and Ben?
I think that they're genuinely considering it, and they're putting it out. Right, they're putting it out into the universe so everybody can get accustomed to the idea, and then what they'll do is they'll do. They won't do a full restriction for tourists, but they'll do a half. They'll go halfway as far as they said they were going to go, and then people are going to be like, "All right, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. We'll still go. We might only be able to get a gram, whatever, or less or reduced window of time that you can visit these places." I have a feeling that's what it is. You get the idea out there, and then you do it by increments. Yeah.
What about you, Chairman?
I wouldn't err on the side of conspiracy, and I would think that there's other difficulties at play, but considering, as I would think, that each government is scrambling to make as much money or get revenues up as much as possible. That's why we've had stimulus instead of austerity in terms of the deficit. That if they're talking about losing 50% of their tourists from Germany and 45% from France, that they must be pretty serious about it in a time that every government needs money. So
hang on, though. It's
the perfect time to do it.
On those statistics, is that of all tourism or of only those who were going to smoke weed? Remember you said that the percentages, I took that to mean of people who would go...
All tourists. So the way this is, to read it out again, the study by the Dutch Office for Research Information and Statistics found that up to 44% of British tourists, 50% of German visitors, and 45% of French tourists would no longer visit Amsterdam if they could not enter coffee shops. Now, up to has to be taken into account, but up to losing half of your revenue from a neighboring nation, that was all tourists. So that means that the other 50% of Germans, the other 55% of French that go for, or at least declare that they're going for, cultural or
other reasons, family, business,
the nightlife, the red light district.
So you're you didn't really answer the question there. What do you think?
Yeah, they're going to do it. They're going to do it.
You reckon?
The perfect time to do it when people can't visit, and by the time you can visit, you're not allowed.
I agree. Timing is right. You know, if people are seeing the drop in income already, then when they just won't see the increase again, they can't necessarily blame it on the new law that's been brought in.
Might be time to buy some Dutch lager stocks.
Heineken, yeah.
So if you are interested in any of the topics, don't forget to get in touch on Instagram or Twitter or hirishtimes.com. The audio will be on SoundCloud, and AJ is going to put a link to the article. If you're interested in any topics or want to give us any topics to discuss, don't forget to hit us up. We'll catch you guys in the next cast. Thanks, Ben. Thanks, AJ. And thanks, Dinty.
Cheers, lads.
Right.